Okay, we're ready to roll.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. March 11th, 2026, Easton Historic Commission meeting is now open. Wayne, if you could please give us our Zoom meeting instructions.
Of course. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board and commission members will be remote, and a remote attendance shall count toward quorum. The meeting may be broadcast live and will be recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, folks should use the link in the posted agenda. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to standard procedures as possible. However, there are a few differences with the remote Zoom meetings. Public participants can join the webinar as an attendee, and they can get promoted to panelists in order to participate in the meeting when an agenda item comes up. And during the public testimony portion, if folks want to say something, please use the raise hand function, and the chair can notice that. And also, one significant difference is, oh, and here's Rob Cordini, thank you. And then one notable difference is that roll call votes are needed for this. So, folks have to state their last name and how they vote, or I could, if it's easier, call people as we go around. And part of this whole roll call vote is that we also need to do roll call attendance to confirm quorum. Tim, would you like me to call on people?
We've also got to promote a couple up to voting.
Yeah, we have to do that as well.
Yeah. So whichever one you do first.
Roll call attendance.
Okay, Hurley here.
Ventresco here.
Hands here.
Spencer here.
Bishop
Marsh.
here.
Huh? Marsh here.
Cordini here.
Great.
Full house.
That's great. And then the next item on the agenda, as you mentioned, Tim, is a motion and a second to promote the two alternate members to voting members. That would be Mr. Bishop and Mr. Cordini.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
And a roll call vote again.
Hurley, aye.
Ventresco, aye.
Hands aye.
Bishop, aye.
Spencer, aye.
Marsh, aye.
Cordini, aye.
Okay. Thank you. And then next up is a review and acceptance of the February 19, 2026 minutes.
Yeah, if everyone had a chance to review them. Any deletions, additions, corrections?
I didn't see anything, and if nobody else has it, nothing else to add or delete or change, I make a motion to move.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and second, and Hurley, aye.
Ventresco, aye.
Hands aye.
Bishop, aye.
Spencer, aye.
Marsh, aye.
Cordini, aye.
And then next up is the Ames Local Historic 9 Sullivan Avenue Children's Museum. It's an update and discussion. And let me promote Christine Santoro from the Children's Museum and Greg Strange from the representing the Children's Museum as well. Christine and now Greg.
Got them yet?
And yeah, there they are. Great.
Good evening, Children's Museum.
Evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having us.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Christine.
Hello.
Mr. Ventresco, a pleasure always.
Thank you. Vice versa. Welcome again.
Wayne,
So I was chatting a bit with Tim and with Christine, and Tim, I think this is the objective here. We have a posted public hearing for next Thursday, March 19th. We have to post hearings 14 days in advance, and so that's the timeline we're working with. And we had this on our books as a meeting held anyway. So we were thinking it could be helpful for the Children's Museum applicants to get a little guidance or feedback on things they may be proposing to submit for the certificate of appropriateness. so that when the public hearing opens on the 19th, the commission will have what it thinks is everything it may need at that time, and not have to continue, so they could make a certificate of appropriateness determination. So I think that's the objective we're hoping to accomplish. Is that a fair summary, Tim and Christine?
Yes, with the goal to getting them to CPC in a timely
Correct.
fashion.
Yeah.
That's why we've done this tonight and next Thursday. We'll complete that situation.
Yeah. And this is all in support of a couple of things. First up is the necessary certificate of appropriateness for work in the local historic district, and also work on a structure with a preservation restriction on it. And then also some of that work may, given the change in construction costs and the possibility of restoring windows rather than replacing windows, there may be an increased cost to the project. And so there may be a request for supplemental CPA funding for the Springtown meeting, and to meet the timeline for that, we're having a series of meetings within several weeks to make sure that we, if that's the way it goes, that we can actually accommodate that.
Okay.
So I guess that's kind of, I think, my table setting. What do we think is the most productive thing to do here? Would it be to do a share screen so folks can see what might be submitted? Would it be to talk about the kinds of plans and specs and materials, that information that would be needed for a certificate of appropriateness? That's a short, basically it's a short letter from the commission, but appended to that letter as exhibits or attachments are all these plans and specs and such.
Right.
So making sure we actually have all that in a form that the commission's comfortable with is helpful to keep it moving smoothly.
Do we have anything submitted?
Not yet for the certificate of appropriateness. We, I think, would expect that in the next week or so, a couple of days ahead of the meeting. And this is to try and make sure we get as much complete as we can.
Okay. Well, I think the biggest issue here was windows, and I think we've overcome that hurdle.
Excuse me. I'd like to say a few things, if you don't mind, before you begin.
Okay.
Thank you. What I want to explain to all of you, some of you know me and some of you do not, and I really appreciate all of what each one of you do. I spent many years on boards, planning boards, the Planning Board, Affordable Housing Trust, CPA, and I do appreciate the seriousness of what you do and the time and effort you put into it. I've been there, so I understand your perspective and where you're coming from, and the responsibility that each of you bring to what you do. What I'd like to tell you a little bit about is my perspective. As the director of the Children's Museum, for me, I appreciate being in a historic building. It's a beautiful building, and I think the founders of the museum really had great vision. And it's been a museum now we're going to be celebrating our 35th birthday this year. But along with that comes the responsibility of making sure that the people who come to the museum are comfortable and safe, along with having very good experience educationally and enjoy themselves through hands-on play in the exhibits that we have here. Many of our children are very, very young who come to the museum. Our youngest are not even walking yet. And so, we have to really be careful about making sure that the museum is safe in every aspect, and including the windows. which are old, and
Excuse me.
may not be the safest windows in the world. We've had to put boards up because the windows are 18 inches off the floor, on the second floor anyway, to protect, the children who sometimes are, they're 1-year-old toddlers walking around. So we take that very, very seriously. And the reason we originally proposed replacement windows had to do with safety and comfort.
Are you shitting me?
Excuse me?
Hello? No, I'm listening, sir.
So during our last hearing, which was back in December 3rd of 2024, during that entire hearing, the idea of restoring windows was never raised. The first time I heard about restoration of windows was this year, in January of 2026. And I was quite surprised. In fact, I was shocked because it had not been brought up at the last hearing. So that's my perspective. That's why I was really quite upset about it, because 13 months had gone by. And the idea of restoration had never been brought up. So that's my perspective that I'd like each of you to understand. I have a responsibility to do the best thing for the people who, I'm responsible for. My staff, the children who come there, their parents, their grandparents. And in my opinion, what we proposed back in December of 24 was in the best interest of the museum. So I hope you can understand my perspective and why I was really stunned in January to hear about restoration. So I'd like to turn it over to Greg Strange, who knows a lot more about all of this stuff than I do. He is my consultant and project manager. So I leave it to Greg.
Well, that was a heck of a segue. So Tim, is there something that you wanted to say?
No, fine.
Okay. So first, I just want to let you guys know, I learned of this meeting this weekend while I was in the emergency room, getting ready for my second unplanned surgery in 10 days. I've been home for about 28 hours. Normally I would, if I knew this meeting, I would have pulled an all-nighter if I had to get you guys a package. But I'm about 20% right now. So bear with me. I'll try to, I'm not sure the purpose of this meeting. I know when last time we all met, you guys voted to recommend what we had proposed. That was a year and a half ago. And I guess now there's been some discussion about windows, which unfortunately I haven't been privy to any of the discussions. So why don't you tell me what you would like me to present? I'm not really sure what this meeting's about. So if you could just give me a little heads up, I could try to fill in the blanks.
Well,
I
unfortunately,
think, if I might interject myself to this one, there is, so and most people here already know this. This is just for benefit of other folks who might be watching. For a certificate of appropriateness, it's meant to be a public hearing that is posted 14 days in advance. And at that certificate of appropriateness hearing, the commission reviews the plans and elevations and material specifications submitted and votes on whether or not to grant a certificate of appropriateness. And then these plans, elevations, and material specifications get appended to that certificate and become part of that document. And public hearings, of course, can be continued to a date certain. But also there is the possibility or likelihood that there may be a request for additional or supplemental CPA funds to help cover any increased project costs, both related to windows and also increases because of inflation in the last year and a half. And in order to meet town meeting, the warrant is already closed. There's a supplemental, there's a placeholder warrant article for this in the town warrant. But the select board, of course, needs to include and recommend a warrant article in April. And the CPC also needs to recommend an article towards the end of March. So to meet all of these deadlines, all these inflection points, we thought it might be helpful to have a conversation or some guidance on what sort of materials or plans or specifications the commission members would need in order to grant a certificate of appropriateness, so that the public hearing on the 19th might actually resolve on the 19th and not be continued to another week or two out. So if you have anything in draft form that you're thinking you might submit as part of that certificate of appropriateness application, because the application really is the plans and the material specifications. So anything that you have at the moment, or if the commission feels like it needs more detail. That I think is really what we're here for. There may in fact not be very much to talk about tonight. I think it's just trying to set the table and see what materials the commission might need to see, and try to get everything done in a fairly efficient and timely fashion.
Okay, all right, so why don't we just give me 2 seconds. I apologize, guys. I really am kind of
No worries.
not doing too well right now. And if it was in any other board or any other meeting, I wouldn't be doing it, frankly. But time is of the essence. So I'm going to pull out, because I had this all prepared and I can't find anything. So, God damn. All right, well, I was going to share, I'm just going to read. I wanted to share this document with you, but I cannot find it on my.
Which document was that, Greg? Was it?
So it was, so
or
last
was it
year, so we
updated?
met with you guys last year. We gave a presentation of the 10 items or so that we're doing. And then, you guys voted to recommend everything unanimously and said, obviously, we'd want you to come back for the certificate, during the certificate of appropriateness application with material and specifications, which, obviously. So actually I had to do that a little bit subsequently when we met with CPA, maybe a month after we met with you guys. So I'm just going to, instead of taking, because I've already been accused of making meetings go long, and I guarantee you I do not want to do that tonight.
Is
So
this a document dated 11/26/24, or do you have a recent version?
yeah,
I found a copy of that. If I shared screen, could you?
Yeah,
tell
why
me
don't you do that?
what
That's
version
great. Do
it was?
that. I have that somewhere, but I have it printed, but I can't find it for life.
Let me see. Oh, come on. Technology, friend or foe? There we go.
Well, you're on the ball, Wayne.
Does this work here? Are people seeing this?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
And is this what you're thinking of, Greg?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
For some
great.
reason, I can't open it.
So I was thinking about the letter also, Wayne, if you had that. It was from November 2024 that Christine had also had mentioned when she spoke.
I believe the thought it was voting to recommend and support an application. So it would be this.
Why can't I do
I do not want to ask AI assistant,
Ah, there we go. There we go. All right.
but here is the Beach Hill Homes.
Okay. So do I have the floor? You want to go through this quick?
Yeah, and just tell
But
me.
I
what
don't
you
believe,
want me
right,
to
we
scroll
didn't
through
review this as a, but anyway, so these are all the same items. This is exactly what I presented to you guys in terms of the items. And I went back, I've watched the video a couple times of that meeting and pretty much had the specs. So real quick, so first thing, we're going to remove and replace damaged clapboards and exterior trim. The exterior, there'll be no plans for this. There's just the specifications, which right here, all rotted, split, and broken clapboard siding is to be removed and replaced with 1/2" by 6" red cedar clear vertical grain clapboard that has been factory primed. Exposure to the weather shall match the existing spacing, and butts at the trim will be caulked at the time of installation. All patches shall be woven with staggered joints, and envelope wrap shall be installed under the clapboard. The nails shall be hot dip galvanized box nails or stainless steel ring nails. So 1/2" red cedar, clear vertical grain, because that's the best wood this day and age to use for clapboards. Factory primed, because then it'll hold up for 25 years unless you decide to change your color. It's top of the line. It's what we'll be doing. Any wood, there's a few places, not much, but a few places where wood trim is rotted, it will be removed and replaced with new wood trim. Number two, so that and all of these prices will be adjusted slightly. Things have gone up in a year and a half. And forgive me, I don't know if I said this before, but by this weekend, I'll be getting this revised estimates and a couple of plans that I need to do to Christine so she can get it to you, Wayne, by Monday, and then you can distribute it to the board. That's the fastest I'll be able to do it. I'm sorry. I'm in the hospital the next 2.5 days. So, okay. Remove and replace existing asphalt roof. It's my recollection, of course, I guess lots of things have changed since I was last with you guys, but it's my recollection that we all agreed that we would replace all the roof, that is the cedar section that's at the base of the tower, which was only done 12 years ago, but leaks like a bastard. Oh, excuse my French. And then the existing asphalt roof that's been up for 24 years. So we'll strip everything, replace any, just remove and replace all existing asphalt and wood shingled roof areas. New shingles should be 40-year architectural style with shadow line installed over full coverage ice and water barriers. Well, like I said, with associated flashings per manufacturer's specifications. Based on museum's selection of style, color, and shingle shall be manufactured by one of the three major. So I'll, I don't know, part of as you know, the local historic district, you don't get to have a say in picking the color of the roof. And I'm not going to push the museum at this point to pick their color because I'm not sure what they're doing with the color of the building. But I will provide cut sheets for all three of these manufacturers. And that way you'll have all the information you need to study architectural roof shingles. Number 4, so number 3 is omitted, as I said, the front door overhead door removal. Call it overhead, it really shouldn't. It's the old, I guess, firehouse doors, we should call them. And as I explained last year, we had that picture showing the original doors, which we are now, so we're going to remove the doors, which are thin wood and freezing cold. We're basically going to build a wall, an insulated wall that'll be finished on the inside of the house, inside the building, I'm sorry. And the exterior will be built using using mahogany, maybe some composite material for the panel area, with the matching details of the original doors, which we can get because that the front door, the front human door, if you will, at the porch, is original. So we're going to copy those details. I'll get little drawings of those moldings so you can have it. So that's what that is. That's same as we discussed last year. It's probably a little more. Wayne, could you? Oh, so all right, that's number 4. I'm trying to turn the page, and it's yours. So you can see existing overhead doors. So you saw this plan last time. I added this note for the CPA meeting last year. It just, existing overhead door will be removed and replaced with 2x6 stud wall with exterior finished wall, exterior plywood sheathing covered with boral composite, smooth base, and mahogany styles molding and casing. Windows shall be thermal pane, insulating glass. Exterior design is based on recreating profile, dimensions, and details of the original firehouse doors. Interior shall be insulated with gypsum wallboard and plaster, et cetera, et cetera. But as you know, you guys don't have a say on the interior, so I'll speed the meeting up more by moving on. So there's a picture for those that weren't on the board at the last meeting. This picture, I believe, from 1904. First shows those firehouse doors that we're going to go back to. So basically, it's going to be a wall that looks like doors, so that it'll be nice and warm. It's behind the reception desk or I don't know what you call that part of the museum, Christine, but it'll be a lot warmer, thus saving a nonprofit lots of money in heat loss. Exterior door, replacement. So there are 4 other doors in the building. There's the front door that I discussed at the porch, or I mentioned at the porch. There's in the basement in the back, there's a pretty low end patio door, 6068. Second floor, there's a insulated steel door at the top of the second egress, aka the fire escape, and then there's a side door on the right side of the building. The main door we are going to preserve. We'll have it taken off site. We'll put in a door temporarily, and the door will be stripped back to its original mahogany material, refinished, touched up as needed. The frame will probably just be replaced, and it'll definitely be replaced. Casings we'll mill up new casings to match what's there. And then new thresholds, new historical. I shouldn't say historical, but for this type of door, you need sort of the gallery lock and groove with felt weather stripping. So that'll be taken off site and done by a firm that actually specializes in that. The other 3 doors will be replaced with as I mentioned before, a Therma-Through classic craft door, which is a steel insulated door, which has a fiberglass skin over it with an embossed wood grain, and it has it has richer details. Most the doors that are in place now are just cheap, stamped out steel doors that have no detail. So the classic craft fiber classic will have some depth and texture and detail to it, similar to historical detailing. That's just a nicer product. And I'll submit cut sheets and info on those as well.
A clarifying question, Greg, if I may.
Sure.
So for the exterior door replacement, are there going to be 3 exterior doors that you're replaced and then
yes, there'll
Okay.
be the sliding door facing the town parking lot, and then the right side of the building there's just a cheapo steel door. I think it's a 9 length maybe, and then the top of the egress stairs, again another cheapo. So we'll replace all those with a better quality with a better quality door that has a little more detail.
And then the original front door will be restored, so it's
The
3
original front door, yeah,
replacements
exactly.
and restoration. Okay.
Right. And then, hold on, I think, did you go by one? Go back up, if you don't mind. So the existing front porch restoration. This item is an option. The original submittal to CPC. After investigation, we discovered that, wait a minute. No, never mind.
Yeah.
I already talked about this. So, okay, moving on. So, I kind of morphed 5 and 6 together, but I already discussed that. So you can see there, just if you want to go back up for those who weren't on the board in that picture, see the blue photo. That's the original door, and if you can remember the firehouse door that we showed just a second ago, it's actually the same detailed trim profile. So that's the door we're going to be taking out. I know it's going to break some hearts to get rid of the blue, but we're going to mahogany. Replace 28 existing windows. So when I presented a year and a half ago, I guess, mentioned that we were going with Anderson Architectural Series windows. The reason for that, if you look at the building now, the original windows looked great. They were a 9/1 window grill. Beautiful, right? Unfortunately, for, I don't know, 80 years, 60 years, they've had aluminum storm windows over them, which hide the detail of the building, also fry the windows, the finish and the glazing of it, creating a little greenhouse there with no ventilation, and don't really provide any thermal. So those anybody that's been in an old building those, the old lead weights or the old steel weights, going up and down, rattle, big air pockets in there. And, warm bodies radiate to cool surfaces. So you go into this building, which is really a play space for children, right? We call it a museum, but it's a great, it's a huge part of our downtown. It's one of the things that started the restoration of everything downtown. Bravo to everybody involved in that 35 years ago. So as I mentioned to you guys a year and a half ago, I wanted to go with the Anderson Architectural Series, a window which I want to note is accepted by many, many historical commissions around the state of Massachusetts. The reason is that the window itself, you think of an Anderson window or, it's a vinyl window. It doesn't look right. That's not what this is. This is the interior of this. It's a wood frame window on the interior. It has wood finish. Again, it doesn't really matter for here. On the exterior, it's a fiberglass reinforced frame. They call it Fibrix. It's built to the sash details. And the sash, for those that don't know, when you look at a double hung window, a window that goes up and down, the glass, the wood or the material that goes around the glass is the sash. So in this case, that sash is made to the dimensions of many of the old historical windows. And in this case, it's within about a 1/4 inch of the windows. And this allows us to put in a couple things. It lets us put in insulated glazing. So instead of these windows it's freezing in this museum sometimes from these windows. Instead of it being cold, we'll get rid of a lot of the draft because we'll also be able to take out those weights and fill in those voids with some foam insulation. The windows will operate. They'll go up and down. Now, this building has safety systems by code. It has the second floor egress. It has egress on the first and lower floors. But, as a designer, you always try to, just like they do with code, you try to think of bad situations. And this museum upstairs has a bunch of little rooms in it. And what if someone's in one of those rooms and there's a fire or there's a mass shooting or there's something at that door and they can't get out? Well, wouldn't it be nice if they can open a mortared window that operates smoothly, can tilt out easy and break easy if you need to, you hit it with a hammer and get out, versus you can barely open the windows that are there now. And if you do, then you got to get through these storm windows, which are oxidized and barely move, and are just standard old single pane float glass on the first. So, if windows this size in a museum, although probably not required by code, you'd want to put in tempered safety glass. I don't think of the toddlers as Christine. I think of the 5 or 6 or 7-year-old that's running and maybe trips or tackles a kid and they go flying into the glass. The single pane glass, they're going to go right through it, going to break into big pieces, and it could be dangerous. That's why the museum now has these giant, it has like these 1x8 boards going across it. You can see it from the outside. Well, that actually kind of violates some codes, but it doesn't look good. But I understand why they did it, But by putting in tempered safety glass, first of all, the glass is much stronger than a single float plane glass. But if it does break, it's going to be the inside piece, and just like in our cars, it's going to break into a million tiny little squares. So little Johnny won't have a giant gash in his arm, and they'll be able to operate. They'll be able to tilt out. They can clean these windows. It'll be a much better product for the museum. It'll save this nonprofit, I bet, 10 to 20% on its heating bill, because there's a lot of glazing in this building. That coupled with what we're doing at the garage doors. But most important for me, if Christine had come to me and asked me to help out on this job and I was just doing roof and siding, I said, I don't want to do that. I'm not a handyman. You don't need me. But I liked the bit of, doing some research and finding those pictures and redoing the the firehouse doors. And then I loathe to have, as you guys know, from my 12 years on the Historical Commission and my 18 years as chair of the Planning Board, where we had special permit authorities over many historical projects, and my work along with Tim and Ed writing the local historic district rewrite and doing the first one with the committee. I loathe to see our old buildings that have aluminum storm windows covering them, because then you lose all the detail. And next week I'll show you all sorts of comparison pictures of it. But by pulling off these storm windows, we're going to bring this building back to its original beauty. You'll see the details in the windows. You'll see the fenestration and all the existing trim that's there now, the sills, the cornices, that's the molding at top, the casing going on the sides. That's going to remain. If once we take the storm windows off, we find that the wood's rotted or damaged, then we'll replace it to match the profile. But that's the way to make this building look beautiful. And I want to add, this process that I just described was done on probably, I don't know, I don't want to say most historical because Ed Hands is in the audience, but I dare say a very historic building in our town, the Ames Shovel Works. And I say one of the most important because without the Ames Shovel Works, none of this stuff that we think of in Easton for the historical, most of it doesn't exist. And, you know, the Shovel Works project, which received a federal award, the National Trust for Historic Preservation awarded the prestigious Dry House Preservation Award in 2015. The state of Massachusetts, Secretary Galvin, who also is the head of the Mass Historical, they awarded the Massachusetts Historical Commission announces the selection of the Ames Shovel Works in 2015 to receive the 2015 Massachusetts Historical Commission Historic Preservation Award. And guess what they did there? They put in new simulated divided light windows. They're not Anderson. It's actually, they put in a lower quality window than what we're proposing, but that's what they did. Then in our local historic district, we have the building, and forgive me, I'm so hopped up on medicine right now, I can't think of all of it, but the church that is a restaurant now, that is Nico's, that Dave Howard, the building to the right that Dave owns, that's a store. The place that has Lady Zaza or Auntie Zaza, forgive me, Zaza. Across the street, the building that used to, I think still has Bill's House of Pizza. Northeastern Grammar, the Lincoln Street School. There's a house right across from the, I was on the board. There was a house that got totally renovated. All these projects came to the Historical Commission. Not all of them during the local historic district, granted, but about half of them did. And they all had simulated divided light windows. And the reason is that, you know, buildings, as time goes on, some technology is gone. You know, the firehouse, AKA the Children's Museum, it doesn't have the original furnace that was in it at one time. It doesn't have the original roof. It doesn't have the original gutters. It doesn't have the original downspouts. It has the original windows, but they've been covered with storm windows for decades. And now getting rid of those windows and putting in, as I've described, is going to improve the look of the building. And it's done, every historical commission in the state allows this to happen, because it's what you think of what it does for the thermal performance of a building. And it makes it, you know, if I was in better shape, I would show you that antique picture and I'd show you the new picture, you know, the current day picture. And you can't see the details in the building. And I know, Tim, when you came to a show I was doing in December, and you said it, you know, and you brought up, hey, what's up with the museum? I said, I don't know, I haven't heard for a while. And you said, well, I'm going to make them switch. I'm going to make them keep the original windows. And I said, you guys already voted. You voted to put it on the CPA. Oh, no, we didn't vote. Well, I'm sure by now with this little controversy, you've gone back and watched the tape, and you did vote. So I guess right now I want to speak not for the museum. I can just speak as Greg Strange, 42-year resident of this town. I think those of you that know me know I've put in, love me or hate me, I gave an honest effort and put a ton of time in for this town, just as you guys did. And I don't understand how we got a recommendation from this board in writing that went to CPA. You guys were all in support of this. You voted unanimously. I know, and you know, I know there was talk, oh, Christine said the windows were original. Well, I corrected the record 6 minutes later in the tape. And I said, at least some of the windows in this place are original. And I continued describing exactly what I just went on about. And nobody here said anything about, we don't want you to replace the windows. So I'd like to know why this job is being singled out, or this property, I should say, is being singled out, this nonprofit, to have an inferior, unsafe, and a less aesthetically pleasing project, you know, by what you guys recommended this to CPA. So now we have to scramble and come up with all new budgets. I really don't understand that. and I hope you don't go that way, because I just think, and I know some of you guys agree with me because you've been on that same side of the fence on other projects that we've had before us when I was on the board. So anyways, I wasn't supposed to get into that, but I'm sorry. It's kind of, I'll blame the medicine, but it's a little frustrating. So number 8, exterior painting is what it is, says what it is. Replace the front porch. Basically, the existing deck boards are all going to come off, and we're going to replace them with 1x4 fir decking, which I bet was probably there originally. And we're going to put it in properly. And there's a really cool wood bench, and I don't know if it was original at the property or not, but we're going to refinish it and keep it because I just think it's quaint. And Wayne, do you mind scrolling down? I finished number 9.
No problem. With the porch, the roof is presumably part of the asphalt, the re-roofing.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But it seems to be in pretty rough condition, so I don't know if you want to take a second look at that and see if more work is needed for that when you're doing the
Yeah, well, I think, when I gave budgets to, as I would to any client, when I gave budgets to the library, I put in, not a big one, but I put in a small contingency figure because things like that might come up.
Yeah.
We pull the roof off, we might see some rot. You don't see it on the inside, and that roof's not that old. It's probably 25 years. So, but there's always going to be something. I mean, there's definitely a lot of leaking around the tower where the wood shingle meets the asphalt shingle wasn't flashed properly. So we'll have to do some stuff there. And you're right, that lower roof, yeah, will need a little bit of work. Second floor emergency egress. Yeah, right now it's a undersized, bouncy, pressure treated thing. We're going to take it down. We're going to build the frame out of pressure treated wood, but properly sized stuff to meet code, like 6x6 posts, the appropriate galvanized connectors, and then the railings and balusters and guardrails are going to be a AZAC. It's funny, all these companies keep acquiring each other, but it's an AZAC / TimberTech / I think now Hardy. I think Hardy just bought AZAC system. So it's pre-finished white. It has a colonial profile. I have some stuff I was going to show you tonight, but I'm loopy and I can't find it. So I'll get it to you this weekend. And it's a pre-finished composite stainless steel system. Looks great. I've put these in $6 million homes. These will last long after we're all gone. And it'll look really nice. Ties into the look of the building. And isn't tacky, just has some simple details to it. But it'll look much nicer. It has closed railings and it will look a lot better and hold up much better than that exposed pressure treated thingamajiggy. And is that it? Yeah.
The end of
And
the
that's,
stuff.
yeah, that's it. So there's no additional items since we presented to you guys. And I think, in terms of plans, I have the fire door plan done, which you've seen. I've added a little detail to it, so you'll have that. And the egress stair that I just talked about, I'll have that detail. And then I have a couple things I put together showing the existing dimensions of the window sashes, and the window sashes and compared to the details of the new windows. So just while you're, you know what, I can't, so Wayne, do you want to drop? I'm going to share my screen real quick. If you guys can just give me 2 minutes, I just want to show you something so you can understand what I'm talking about, because I know some of you weren't at the meeting a year and a half ago. If that's okay with the chair.
Where is my stop share option?
Yeah, they change it every week, don't they?
There it is. Wow.
Usually it's a green button.
find.
Oh, there you
Okay.
go. All right. Now, make sure I don't have anything inappropriate on my desktop. All right, I'll share mine to begin with. Did it show up?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let me show you. Let's see. All right, the problem is, won't be. So here's the picture Wayne just showed us. And So what we're talking about with the windows are these things right here. We look at, here's the existing windows. This trim right here, I'm assuming you can see my little icon. This trim will remain. We'll get rid of this random piece of wood. The sill will remain. This aluminum storm window, gonzo. Garbage, kills the look of buildings. And then behind it, you can see, look what these storm windows have done. They've fried all these frames. But you can see how you're not going to, this was really sunny and I went up close so you could see it. But you know how it is with the windows, how they reflect. Many times, look at this picture, okay, you can see that one, but you can't see those, But now, look at that, here's from 1904 when there was no storm windows. Look how beautiful that is. Look at the difference, You're gonna be able to really see the details. If I show you, that's that. Give me one more second here. All right, I already did that one. Give me this. Okay. All right, cool. So I wasn't supposed to drive, but I toured around Easton today. So Shovelworks, here we go, the one I talked about. Now this isn't an Anderson window, I'm not talking, but I'm just showing you how, okay, just for those that know, what all we're talking about in that window, we're just gonna take this sash, and then this tiny little line of frame. That's all that's gonna be new at the Children's Museum. All of that other trim that remained will exist. And you can see here, next time you go by the Shovelworks, take a look. You know where those grills are because you can see them. They pop out. It's great detail. They did it everywhere. Look, these sashes. Children's Museum. You can't see those windows. There's stone windows all over these. But here, you can see them. You can see them on the old ski chalet. And then here's the church I talked about. Simulated divided light, approved by this board. The building right next door. Simulated different pattern, but in keeping with the architecture of the building. The house I talked about, approved by this board, simulated by, and Frank, I'm not going to discuss whether that window, it's all good. So, and then some more buildings that are in the district. These were before us, but simulated divided light. Because, folks need, I'll kill my share now, folks need thermal performance in their windows, oil, gas, propane, solar, whatever you use, not getting any cheaper. And windows and doors equals heat loss. Even your best windows, what's having an R value of 3 versus your wall, which has an R value of 22 on average. But now these windows that children go there, it's so windy in there. I brought a candle one time and it blew it out. It's like on a windy day. We want to give a better product aesthetically and a better product for the museum. And I thought everybody agreed that night. We were talking. We'd been talking about it before the meetings, and it sailed through. I don't know what's happened since, but I hope you guys will give it some thought because I think it would be a shame. And I'd recommend it if this board doesn't allow simulated divided light. I'd recommend it to the museum not to touch the windows because it's just a waste of money. You're not gonna see it, And as a member of this board told me, but then inside it'll look nice. Well, I think it'll look the same, but inside isn't the right of this board. As you all know, local statistics cover things seen from a public way on the exterior only. And also there is case precedent that with a storm window, it has been, in some cases, the windows behind them, the original windows, if you will, actually can be considered part of the interior. Depends on, now, of course, the preservation restriction on this building kind of defines it a little kind of better. Says that it lists items like windows, doors, trim, cornices, yada yada, that connect to the exterior. So you could say the windows could do, but there's also a problem with this. It's funny. I was talking to town council recently. There's an issue with the preservation restriction because it was for 2 amounts of money and about 6 items in scope. Not all the money was paid, and several of the items in scope were never done. So the question is, well, is the preservation restriction enforceable? Now, this is just Greg Strange talking, as you remember. I'm not representing the museum. I've never had that conversation with Christine Santoro. But it's an interesting part. So I've heard all sorts of theories the last 3 or 4 days as this little brouhaha behind the scenes that I wasn't privy to. And you know, I think it's a shame that it went this way. I don't know how it got here because I know Christine and I haven't been around. But I hope the board agrees with our proposal and puts it forward because it's the best product for the town of Easton and for the museum. And you know, as a taxpayer, everything's expensive these days, right? And all the towns are hurting big time, and that's not going away anytime soon. So CPA is kind of immune to that, but we should still spend it wisely. And I'd like to see it spent on monies that also help save nonprofits other expenses, i.e., fuel and safety. So, anyways, I'll get off my pulpit, and that's that. So, like I said, just to summarize, I'll get those plans I talked about and detailed specs all put together. I'll get a package out to Christine, worst case by Sunday, and then she'll get it to you guys. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. So I don't know that there's any follow-up conversation to this. You know, clearly the deliberation on materials submitted would be for the hearing. Ed?
I'd like to thank Greg for such a cogent presentation and explaining a lot more about the window details than we had before. I've been on the CPC as long as you have been, and longer because you're no longer there. But I suddenly ended up as chair, and my
condolences.
Yeah, I know. My one my one duty is to shepherd these proposals through town meeting if we choose to accept them. And one of the things that struck me as I did some reading, because I was told that we have to have original windows, otherwise the CPC can't fund them because we have to meet the Department of the Interior standards, which are very strict on windows. I really like the part of your presentation would basically, you're saying these windows would look the same, but have an increase in safety and an increase in R value. Is there anybody here who can speak to that issue?
I'd love to, real quick, if I could.
You speak to them. You can't do it real quick.
Give him a chance.
Well, I was just gonna say there is. I can't pull it out right now, but I'll certainly have it for the next meeting. There is sections of the Department of Interior standards, which I'm paraphrasing, but basically say, hey, there are times that you need to use modern materials, and if it's done in a sensitive way that is in keeping with the spirit of the design and the history, it's allowed.
Let's refer to some specifics. When has the CPC paid for replacements?
Shovel works.
Did we? That's such a gigantic project with multiple sources of funding.
What about the building? The building at Oaksames, the building at Borderland. Did that have similar? I think that had similar divide light.
The one I was thinking of was the first one where we actually did not restore with original materials, and that's the condominium on Mechanic Street, the old church there. We allowed them on the sides to use AZAC trim board. Did we pay for that? Or
that was before my time, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. Wayne is shaking his head no. So that wasn't a CPC project. If you could find a CPC funded project in town that used alternate materials like what you're proposing, to use the ASAC trim board, to use steel doors, which clearly weren't original. Give me some examples to take to my committee and let them decide.
Okay, just a couple of things. I might be wrong, but weren't the doors that I referred to that were poorly done, the steel doors in the museum, Christine, wasn't that part of the CPC package way back?
Those doors, I'm not sure how long those doors have been there. They probably were, but I'm not positive. I'd have to research that and see if they were. I'm not positive about that, when those were. I mean, the doors that we replaced, those were not original doors. They were just old doors that were
Right,
falling
right.
apart. But I don't know, I'm not sure what was there in 1986 or 1992 when the property was transferred to the museum.
Well, again, Greg, it was an excellent presentation, and I think what you should highlight um, in your submissions would be comparisons of the windows that were original and the windows that you're proposing to put in.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I should say, if there's anything else, I mentioned what I was going to do drawings of and provide info on. If anybody has any questions, or if I missed something that you'd like info on, just let me know.
Mr. Chair, the distinguished member from Southeastern, John Ventresco, would like to speak.
so I concur with Ed. Greg, again, another great presentation. I do have a few questions. First, I don't know, Wayne, if you can pull up the actual endorsement letter from the commission for those who might not have been at that meeting or were not members of the commission, so they can see that. The second thing that I wanted to mention are the windows, in my understanding, several people have gone out to mention that they are in good shape. They are the original windows. Is that true?
Well,
And
unfortunately.
and let me just finish with that, Greg. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
I did ask the question. And if that's the case, where do we draw the line with historical structures? And I always say, and back to Christine, I'm skipping over here a little bit. You did a great presentation. I understand your feelings with that, but I wear multiple hats. Right now, I'm wearing the historical hat. I have been, me personally, and everybody on this board, we've been appointed by the Board of Selectmen to oversee historical integrity of the community. It's a big task. It's a difficult task. And where do you draw the line? Because of expenses, upgrades, to what Greg says. It was a great speech on why you should do it. But then I look at it from a historical point of view, then what is my position here? Why don't we, well, you know what, we could actually put in a better siding today. I'm just being facetious and off the point, but where do we draw that line? And I can't speak for what Greg is saying with the shovel shops and some of the other structures, because I don't know what the quality of those windows were originally. I do know for a fact that the windows at Borderland, they were restored, and they were in extremely difficult shape, and they went through the Department of Standards and so forth, federally, in state, and that's a good example of why they did that there. So, as a person who appreciates and respects history, let's just say, you know what, why don't you just do what you're gonna do? Where do we stop? If windows aren't important, then what is important? If it's the original windows that are in good shape, we've had several people that can vouch for that have the background to be able to come to that decision. Where do we stop? And again,
I'd like to respond to that.
Sure.
First of all, I think you guys, you're missing that. If you look, and I'll pull up some examples. It's very common. There's different interior department standards. Look at Easton. We wouldn't put most people, you wouldn't put a new window in Oaks Ames Hall. You wouldn't put a new window in the library. These are, but sometimes when things are, when the use is, like look at Shovelworks, that use changed. It went from a factory to a new building. So that building is it's on the National Register. Certainly ties into Department of Interior standards, and it's received multiple awards. I only cited 2 of them. There were more. And when buildings are going to change, like I would think if, let's say, Paula Peterson, who founded this museum, was doing it today, and Easton didn't have CPA 35 years ago, and didn't have local historic districts, I'd say there's a pretty good chance, knowing the potential what this could do for the culture of downtown. Restaurants come and go, businesses come and go, residents come and go, but that museum's been around for 35 years and still solid. I'm there, and that place is packed. You can never find parking. That helped spark downtown, and that building looks pretty close today to what it did when it was built 120 years ago. And I say pretty close, okay, because the roof changed, but you know what? It would be foolish to put a wood roof on there for all the reasons I've talked about before. And those windows are covered. Those windows aren't, I don't know who's telling you those windows are in good shape. To find good shape, the glass isn't falling out, I guess. The windows really don't operate. In fact, I believe a member of this board sent a company out unsolicited to give some prices on restoring those windows. And their proposal actually cost more, substantially more than what we're proposing. And they were going to screw the top glass shut. And then it would be extra to make the windows operable down below. So those windows are what they are. They're hung by ropes and steel weights. We've all seen them, right, in Grandpa's house and stuff. And they're wobbly. They move all over the place. There's no thermal performance there. That's why they had to put storm windows over it. But if we're going to hit the town up for some money and citing historical, to me, and not everybody has to agree with me, and I argue this a lot when I was on the board, I would like to see the building get back as close as it can to what it used to look like. And that's going to happen with what I'm proposing, because we can get rid of the storm windows. We can restore those windows. We could spend $125,000 on those original windows, but we can't take off the storms. It would violate code. And it would be even colder. It's still cold, but it'd be even colder if we didn't have the storms to break some of it. I want to get that building back to where it used to be. I'm tired of, we're never perfect. When I was chair of the planning board, we had a say in, we were the permit granting authority on duplexes. And there was a special permit for a house in town that originally was a factory duplex and then had become single family. And someone came in, purchased the house, and wanted to make it factory duplex. So they came to historical just to get an opinions to give because they wanted to cite historical restoration when they went to planning board. I was on both boards at the time, if you recall. And this board, this person was proposing to use vinyl siding. I said, no, if you're going to do historical preservation or restoration, in this case, I said, I think you should have wood clapboard. I was the minority. The historical commission decided and voted to go with hardy siding. Okay, I didn't agree with it, but whatever, you can't win them all. 2 or 3 weeks later, when it came to planning board, there was a member of the historical commission in the audience. And I was like, I've never seen her at a planning board meeting in my 18 years. I wonder what this is about. And I'm looking at the agenda, wonder what this is. And got up during this presentation for this duplex and stated that the historical commission, and I'm paraphrasing a little, but basically said the historical commission would like to see this be hardy board cement siding, not wood siding, which at the time I thought, that's so upside down to me. It makes no sense. So my point is, we're all human. Decisions aren't always consistent, and I could pull out, what, let's line up all the preservation agreements, historical preservation agreements that this town has done, and I guarantee you every single one of them has violations in it. And you guys all know that too. Because unfortunately, we write all this stuff and we create all this administration, but there's not enough people or not enough competent people or not enough interested people to administer these things and go out and really check the stuff. And some people go out and do, maybe they join this board and they go out and do inspections, but they don't really know what they're looking at because they don't have the vocational experience. So it's all a crapshoot,
your point is well taken, Greg, and I appreciate that.
Could I just jump in here because your argument cuts both ways. If the windows are wobbly, they don't have weights, they don't open, blah blah blah. That's an argument as well for replacing them with duplicates of what the original windows are. Uh, I still think it would be helpful, um, as you've cited in your presentation, that the storm windows are damaging the original windows. And if you can show some of that, that would be a more compelling argument. And the answer,
Sure. Yeah, it was in some of the pictures I showed you, but yeah, I'll show you some of that.
yeah, but I mean, you want to highlight that.
Yeah,
Um,
no problem.
the other thing, John,
Um,
to answer your question, the issue is called it's an ancient philosophical thing called the ship of Theseus. But I will, yeah, here he goes. Wayne says, "Oh my God, no!" But just consider the fact that the USS Constitution is 85% not original wood.
So, Ed, as an old friend, can I ask you a question? Because I haven't been involved in this stuff, and I'm part of this proceeding. I seem to have missed something. So a year and a half ago, we were before you guys. We presented, and you unanimously voted to recommend this to CPA. And it even in the motion that it even said replacing the windows. And they said, yeah, with the I'll quote Wayne. Wayne said, with the caveat that you have to come back during the, what I said before, during the building permit process, local artistic, yada, yada, for materials and specifications. It wasn't methods, okay? It was materials and specifications. Nobody in that meeting raised one iota of opposition to those windows being replaced. And now, the only reason this got delayed was because, as I understand it, the town pulled everything except for the tax increase from last year's, and then went through, got approved, and then, and now all of a sudden there's this, so there hasn't been a public meeting on this. Why have you guys, why is there, let me tell you, I'm not saying you because I don't, but why is there suddenly, what appears to me anyways, as an outsider, opposition to what you recommended? What has happened? What has changed?
Two things. There's a question of interpretation of the letter of
what letter?
Appropriate.
Which is what I have, Wayne, if you could pull that up.
Can I ask a question while you look that up, Wayne? I understand the priority of this and also the shortness of time here, but with all the resources that are out there, can't we ask to have a supplement to saving the windows? And then if have to be looking to replacement? But
that's the issue, yes. If no matter what you do, when this comes in front of CPA, if it requires more money, it would be a supplemental request that is beyond what the original was, or it could be.
With the resources out there and the other places that have restored, can we at least ask to see a quick supplement on possible replacement repairs? Right now, the only thing, if I'm correct, we have is just the proposal to replace the windows with replacements. Can we ask to see a quick possible restoration figure to submit to CP?
Well, here's the thing. As a consultant, if I may,
yeah.
The cost to do that, we received an estimate. A member of this board brought someone over, as I understand it, and that person gave a price on. And it's more money than what we're proposing, substantially more money. But take the money out of it for a second. It's still, okay, it's a single pane window that's still going to need storm windows over it. So as a responsible consultant for my client, the museum, if they're going to hit the town up for $95,000 to replace these windows, or restore these windows, I'd say, you know what, we're going to have to do some research, and you're going to have to put some, if such a thing exists, some high-end modern storm windows over it. So all of a sudden it's going to be $200,000. And But the windows, the details of the windows grills are still going to be 6 inches behind glass. You're not going to see them. So to me, it's silly to spend any money on it if we're just going to keep it that way. And, you know, and I'll also say another thing. First of all, you guys should go back and amend your minutes to this meeting. Because when all this came up, when I was in the hospital, I read it. And the first thing in the minutes that were approved by this board says that Greg Strange says the windows are not original. Wrong. After Miss Santoro, who is a lawyer and a director of a nonprofit museum for children, not an expert in windows or architecture, unless there's something I don't know about you, Christine. So
that's
she
correct.
said, she was asked by Tim right off the bat if these were original windows, and she said no. And when I spoke, I said, and I said, I believe at least some of these windows, because I didn't want to embarrass her. And I didn't think this was a point of contention, especially the way the meeting went. We got thumbs up, all approved. You guys said you were so glad I was involved in the project. You loved the presentation, and you all voted unanimously. And I'm reading this letter now. It's the first time I've seen this letter in the non-original windows. If you go back, okay, Tim and Ed, you kind of made a motion together. And then Wayne, as always does, he kind of summarized it. And he mentioned replacement of the windows. I don't recall hearing non-original. I actually have the audio here somewhere, but I won't waste everybody's time. But you should all go back and watch the meeting. Not to sharpen your knives against poor Miss Santoro, but to go back to the spirit of what we all agreed with that night. And because why would you send us to CPA if you were going to change your mind on it? That makes no sense to me. And, Ed, to your point earlier, and I'll tell you, I'll do the best I can. I'm fighting some real huge health issues here, and I don't have much time. I think the meeting's like a week from tonight, and I'm back in the hospital for 4 of those days. That's why I'm missing tomorrow night's CPA meeting. I have to be back in. So, but boy, given time, I would give you a list as long as my arm in very small font of significant historical restoration projects that are doing exactly what we're talking about. And I guarantee you some of them are CPA. I mean, I already mentioned one, the biggest one in the history of Easton, the Shovel Works, the most award-winning historical project ever done in this town, has them right there. And someone a minute ago said, well, I don't care about condition of windows. Irrelevant, because what you guys are saying, regardless of the condition of the windows, they need to be restored. But here's the thing. There's storm windows out there. Those are now the exterior of the window. So as far as I see it, those interior windows really aren't your purview anymore, because they're not on the outside of the window. They're not on the outside of the building. They've been covered over. Now, irrelevant, because we're not going to replace windows and then put storm windows over it. But I just implore you guys, it's going to be such a better look. Look at all the trim. The look of the building is going to stay exactly the same. Do you go by Oaks Ames Hall and go, damn it, they don't have the original furnace in there. We should never do anything to that, Do you go by this building and go, oh, they have those crappy aluminum gutters, how'd those get up in the local historic district? I don't know, but I didn't administer it. No, you go by and you say, wow, that looks nice. And you might not know why, but give us 100 people. Give me this building the way it is now, and then the way I want to finish it. And have 100 people look at it, and they're going to like the way it looks new. And they might not know why. A couple will pick up the storm windows, but when you can see that detail, when you can see that fenestration, it's so worth highlighting it. And if this was, Unity Close, or Unity Church, the museum, the hall, any of those buildings, which have really unique windows, of course, you'd have to pay, but they also have $50 million endowments. You would have to pay through the nose and get those restored. And maybe even go to the thermal pane glass on them, because you know what, you'd have the budget on it, because those you have to. Well, this is a nice building, it's a poor building, but it's not quite those. And yes, Chair, sorry.
Yeah, we're running away, please.
So, excuse me?
We can use interior storm windows, and that would take care of that whole profile problem. Then the exterior is the exterior. That's moot. That's done. That takes care of that problem.
Windows. Tim, you have no say in interior storm windows. I don't know what you're talking about. You want interior storm windows and exterior storm windows?
No, you eliminate the exterior, you put an interior storm window on. Now you no longer have the problem on the exterior.
But the argument that Mr. Strange is making,
that doesn't work.
Is
Tim,
that
it doesn't work.
You have no purview over interior stuff.
Why doesn't that work, Greg?
go look at, well, Tim, as I understand it, you've been showing up unannounced with consultants and
Yeah, trying to help
and tradespeople. So
listen,
Tim,
listen.
you know what's funny? No, let me finish. Isn't it fun? Again, this is Greg Strange. I'm going to pull off from the museum. You proposed to the museum about 10 years ago a price to restore all the windows. So you obviously knew the windows were original. I mean, you're an expert in these things,
Yeah.
right? So why would
And
you
I
open up
argued
with that question? Why would you open up with that question in hindsight now? And I don't know, but it seems like there was some weird
What
plot
question?
to conspire against the museum and Christine Santoro. I don't understand why.
There's no. Well, that's something you cook
So
up
you
on your
didn't
own.
you didn't know? Did you
uh,
not know
Greg.
a year and a half ago that those windows were original?
I said to you those original windows. Go back to the meeting. That's why.
So
I
then
said
why
that
did
they're
you
not
ask?
original.
Why did you ask Christine if they're original windows?
When did I ask Christine if they were
The
original?
beginning. Let me play it. Let me call this up. Mr. Chair, may I?
I guess you're running it now. Go ahead, Greg.
I gotta find it. Well, you know, I mean, just if we're gonna make up stories, we should try to get things accurate.
Well, okay. So I unsolicited went and got help for the museum. In the future, I will not help the museum if I'm gonna be struck at for helping them.
Well, Tim, don't you take?
Please forgive me for doing that. Please forgive me, Christine, for trying to help.
Can we ask for common procedure here, please? I'm just asking here because that's exactly what the procedure is. It's ridiculous.
Indeed, I agree.
So do I.
So, would you like me to play this video, or do we want to move on?
No, I think we should move on.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I asked for common procedure, please. That's it.
I'm not sure.
I don't know who you're addressing.
The chair? Isn't that Tim?
Yes, it is.
All right. Tim, common procedure. Let's continue on with the discussion.
We have common procedure. We're having a discussion.
Understood. And I agree with this person. So let's continue.
I guess somebody else is running the meeting. Okay.
I'm asking the chair to do common procedure. I'm asking the chair to do common procedure. That's exactly what I'm asking.
I heard you.
Do you understand what that means, or do you want me to give you the definition, sir?
Please. Thank you.
So we seem to have gotten a bit off track. And how can we bring this meeting to a more constructive path forward and a conclusion, and set things up for a constructive public hearing on the 19th? While I recognize this has been a bit tense, I think it is helpful to have this sort of airing of positions before the public hearing, so we can think through some of the issues and comments raised. And I'm not sure if John is trying to say something, if Ed has any further thoughts. I don't know that too much more back and forth is constructive. Was that you, John?
Yes, yeah,
to say something?
I agree with what you're saying, Wayne. We haven't heard really too much from any other members. Maybe they already have their thoughts lined with.
Absolutely, let's hear that.
Yeah, so what I'd like to, again, Tim, the chair, should be bringing it. I don't want to overstep what I'm trying to say. So me personally, I would like to see some of the other members if they have some input, but I think we got a handle on where Christine and Greg are. I don't think we need anything more than that. But I would like, me personally, as I said, would like to see, again, if there's any input. And then this is supposed to be a discussion. I think we've got a handle on the thoughts, and go forward.
I'll chime in. I think this was on the back of John, what you said earlier. I think it was John, and if it's not, I apologize. Is is our task here to make sure that the materials used are the same, or to make it look like it's the same after it's finished? And that might be that fine line that you were talking about on how we actually vote on this and judge on this. But that's, I'm not making a decision one way or the other, but I think that's something that we need to think about.
Agreed.
Can I jump in here because whatever we decide, I've got to pay for it. And the point here is to determine whether going with Greg's plan is fundable by the CPC. He's made a case that there are other examples in town where replacements were funded by the CPC. I'd like to see more of that at our next hearing. But if there are reasons like safety, environmental improvement that are fundable, that's an important case. If not, we can't fund it.
And to your point, Ed, and to Greg's point where he said the CPC funded shovel shop and Northeastern Grammar, so forth and so forth, we don't really know because there was multiple funding in that. And I'm not saying I'm against that. I'm just saying that we need to delineate that when it comes to CPC. And I concur with what you're saying. I agree.
Well, what I learned about the law is that there are all sorts of rules, and a good lawyer will find the exception that will allow the project to go forward the way they want them to. So I think the onus is on the Children's Museum, and Greg has made some really good first steps, more than first steps, in that direction. And that's all I'm going to say.
I can also send around the Secretary of Interior Standards, which is the, I think, frame that commissions use to consider proposals.
Yes, I would heartily recommend that because they're extremely strict.
Yeah, and then any work in the local historic district has to be approved by the commission, the exterior work and also the preservation restriction on the building as well. So looking ahead to the public hearing on the 19th, I can send around the Secretary of Interior Standards, a copy of the preservation restriction. What else would be helpful for folks? We'll have updated plans and specs and possibly cost estimates from Greg. We still have the very open issue of replacement versus restored windows. I don't know if it would make sense to have an A-B path, sort of planning for it. Or we get to the 19th and we can, continue the public hearing to the next week. But I think the CPC would be looking for a determination on what the project is before they vote on supplemental funding. And if there is supplemental funding, is also a question, I think, depending on which path is pursued here.
If I may, I think we already asked for it. If it's possible for that public hearing, is there a potential to have some kind of an alternate plan for this so that we don't go back and forth like we've been going? Graham Strange presented a nice program, but we're also want to go back to what the originality was that Mr. Hand presented also. So if they could present a alternative to go with this proposal that they have at the present time, We can all work it out then. Otherwise, I think we're just gonna go back and forth this evening.
That's a good point, Bob.
Thank you.
I just want to say, don't put me on the opposite side from Greg.
Not intentional.
Yeah, because I haven't made up my mind yet at this point.
Not intentional. There's been a lot of good points come out, but I think we're just going round and round here. And as Mr. Ventresco said, we need to come up with something straightforward, as Mr. Cordini said also. Otherwise, we'll go round and round for the evening here.
Yeah.
I think we've had enough discussion. I think everybody has their points. Unless somebody else has anything else to add to this, I'd like to make a motion to. Oh, we don't have any motions.
No.
Right, this is just a general discussion.
General discussion. So
You could move to go to the next agenda item.
yeah, I'd like to make it.
Thank you for your time. Good night.
Thank you.
Hope you're feeling better.
Good luck.
Is there anything else on the agenda, Wayne?
A letter of support for a grant application from the hall.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's a discussion, though, isn't it?
I'm sorry. What's that?
I'm sorry. That's a discussion also, isn't it?
And a potential vote. Where did this get to?
Well, they're looking for a letter of support, John, and I believe, Wayne, everybody got the plan, if you will, proposed.
No, that was to CPC. The Historical Commission hasn't seen any of this.
Can you put it up? I mean, it's relative. I mean, we want to see it.
I think so. Okay, if we're done with children's museum.
This is to address behind the tower. They call it a cricket, or it's a valley, whatever you want to call it. Crickets or valleys not the same thing, but water is coming down, and it crashes naturally as built into the backside of the turret, and it's prone to backing up and the flashing it's copper flashed. That has deteriorated to the point where it's starting to allow water back into the turret, which CPC funds funded the repairs not that many years ago. So it's unfortunate.
The third time that CPC funding has been requested for the same, a similar project related to the tower.
Right. So it is a bit it's redundant in that area, but it's in a newer area. It's in in a little. We know what problem Hall needs to be a total do-over, and we keep trying to plug holes as we can to preserve it. So go ahead, John.
But we don't actually have the plan, correct? The application.
I'm showing now what they've submitted to CPC. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, so
No.
CPC has had some discussion on this, as Ed will probably say something to it too. There's no question there's an issue. It's with the funding for CPC. We still don't know the real amount, and it's a matching amount also. And I guess maybe I might be speaking now with my CPC hat on. I guess the question to us is, as a historical commission, is this worthy? Do we recommend this to CPC? Is that correct?
No.
No.
Oh, good.
That could be part of tonight's discussion, but this particular ask is for a letter of support for the Hall's application to the Massachusetts Historical Commission for an MPPF grant.
Ooh. That's all, Wayne?
That had been my understanding. That is what I was asked to put on the agenda. Yeah. so that they could make their March 13th application deadline to the MPPF.
And this is in regards to a matching or partial matching to what might be coming to us?
It has not been made entirely clear what their various sources of funds are at the hall. What was presented to CPC was a possible CPC application for a dollar amount that was not specified. I believe it would be about $165,000.
Wasn't this originally 80,000?
That was there was verbal back and forth. It was 40,000, it was 80,000. Materials that were submitted to the CPC, prepared by Lynn Spencer, Spencer Preservation Architects, are for, so here's the building, if you can see my cursor. Here's the tower. Behind the tower is...
We don't see anything, Wayne.
You cannot see the screen?
I think it's,
Yeah, it's there.
Does everybody see it?
yeah, I get it
Yeah,
now.
we see it, yeah.
I think I gotta change screens,
Yeah.
swipe over.
Yeah.
You might have to zoom gets
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah, I got it.
Can you see it? All right. So so here's the hall, here's the tower. Behind the tower, there's this sort of junction, this valley between the tower and the rest of the roof. Here's a sort of overhead plan. You know, here you're looking at it. Here's the tower. It's this thing here. Here's more of a detail. This is all the, you know, tiles, and this is sheets of copper soldered together.
Yep.
And here's what it currently looks like. And the seams apparently are leaking. And so Lynn Spencer has, you know, here's some stuff to do to it. And here's what they've asked for. The construction total is $150. And then there would be a $15,000 construction manager cost. So I believe the ask, best as I can tell, is $165,000 from CPA. And I believe the way the Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund works is it's a 50% matching reimbursement. So you have to spend twice your state grant amount to then get your state grant. So I believe they would be applying for, help me with the math, what is half of 165, like 82,000 or something?
82.5, yeah.
82.5. That's my understanding. The MPPF grant program applications are due, I think, at the end of this week. Announcements are made in June. And part of the application and scoring the application for the state for the MPPF project program is, you know, do you have your match? And so I believe the hall is proposing this to be the match.
So, so this is twofold. They're looking for a letter of support for the grant, correct?
The MPPF grant.
For this project.
Correct.
Okay, but we're not voting on the project, just a letter of support for financing for potentially this project that the Historical Commission would approve and obviously go to CPC. Is that correct? Did I say that?
This is
so.
for a letter of support for the grant application to the state.
But we're not approving the project at the moment, just the money that potentially could.
Right, we're not even approving money. This is a one-line letter of support that says the Easton Historical Commission supports the Oaks Ames Memorial Hall Association's MPPF application for funding to repair the tower.
Okay, I understand.
That's the request.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. We're all set with discussion on that before we,
Yeah, we can.
And then I will have a follow-up in a moment, but
Yeah.
if y'all wanted to vote.
yeah, okay, Hurley, aye.
Ventresco, aye.
Hands aye.
Bishop, aye.
Spencer, I.
Marsh, aye.
Gordini, aye.
Awesome, thanks. And then the next thing is, does the Historical Commission have thoughts on this project that would be relevant to the CPC?
Well,
And is that appropriate to talk about now? It's not actually on the agenda. I know the CPC is actually considering this at tomorrow night's meeting, so.
yeah, anything relevant would help. Yeah, it doesn't have to be, it's not going to be something voted on, but we can support things. Of course, I think the Historic Commission, supports keeping water out of the hall. I think that's the crux of this whole thing, is just keeping water out, which is the biggest enemy of all these buildings. So anything we can do to push that along is, I think makes sense from the commission. I don't know if anybody else has any opinions.
There are substantial subsidiary issues related to requests from the hall.
I understand that fully, but I don't want, I can't say what I want, what I don't want. What I would hate to see is, again, something happened at the hall where we have a chance just to keep water out. That's just the huge enemy. But I understand there are other things that CPC wants to see before they proceed, and I respect that. So Wayne, what's the ask again? We're just having a discussion about what we would like to see or whatever, or just.
I don't know that there is. I am not fully comfortable with having a in-depth conversation or recommendation from the Historical Commission, and that's on me for not thinking to put that on the agenda for tonight, especially ahead of tomorrow's CPC meeting.
Yeah, I think CPC will work out their end of it. Ed, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yes, we're going to have a extended discussion.
Yeah, all right, and so that'll circle back around to us. We kind of coexist and we don't, so it's
right.
We're not always going to go hand in hand, hopping down the road. We're going to do our own.
I see your point about mitigating damage from water. That's certainly an important consideration.
Yeah, and in this situation, it's not something you can throw a tap on. It's it's water coming in under, so it's you put the ugly blue tap up there, but.
So if I may too, Tim.
Yes.
Oh, as you know, CPC has many concerns, questions in regards to this. I think first and foremost, we all respect and love the hall. Without getting too far into the weeds, this is going to be going on multiple structural repairs, and again, from a historical perspective, we support obviously getting these done, but in order to get it done, it crosses over.
Right.
Where does this stop? Where does CPC only has so much funding?
Well, it gets back to. I'm sorry to interrupt, John.
No, go ahead. Follow up.
It gets back to this discussion that we've had over and over again. Do we do this piecemeal, one repair at a time, or do we wait until we have funding or support or whatever to do the project all at once? And I don't know the answer to that question.
I guess we.
I don't want to get too detailed in any conversation on this, especially without any representatives from.
Yeah, I agree. Wayne. I think.
I think Bob wants to say something. One of the Bobs.
Maybe not.
No. Okay. I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that.
Yeah.
Very.
Really, I.
Aye.
Ventresco, aye.
Hands, aye.
Bishop, aye.
Spencer, I.
Marsh, aye.
Gordini, aye.
Thank you. Thank you all.